Okay, so we all know about CEOs, right? The head honcho, the person at the top steering the ship.
Right, right.
But have you ever thought about the critical role of their second in command,
Yeah.
the chief operating officer?
The COO.
Exactly. And if you're checking out this deep dive with us,
Yeah.
you probably already know that there's way more to it than just being the quote-unquote number two.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really interesting one.
It is, because a COO's role can be so incredibly diverse,
Yeah.
depending on the company, the CEO, the specific moment in time.
Absolutely. And the insights that you've gathered for us from writing Shotgun really highlight that, don't they?
Yeah.
The role of the COO.
Exactly. We're talking perspectives from CEOs who've actually sat in that COO seat themselves.
Right.
Current and former COOs sharing their firsthand experiences.
Yeah.
And even those headhunters, those specialists who recruit for these vital positions. So they have a unique perspective as well.
Definitely.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to really try to unlock this whole COO puzzle. When does it actually make sense strategically to bring in a COO?
Right.
How do you design that role for maximum impact within an organization? And what are those key characteristics, the things that make someone truly excel in what's obviously a pretty demanding position?
It is a challenging role.
It is.
Yeah.
So whether you're brand new to this concept or you're actively grappling with these questions in your own work, let's jump in and get into it.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So I think a good place to start is by just acknowledging that there isn't some sort of standard cookie-cutter COO.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The research makes it very clear. A COO is not a COO.
Exactly. There's no one size fits all.
Exactly.
And what I find really fascinating is the huge difference in the scope of responsibilities that COOs can have.
Right.
I mean, you think about Microsoft bringing in Kevin Turner.
Yes.
His main objective, his mission was to use his really strong background in retail to massively grow their consumer products division. Very specific aim.
Yeah, that's a very, very focused objective.
Absolutely.
And then you have these completely different scenarios where a COO is almost like a seasoned mentor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Guiding and supporting the CEO.
Providing that.
Think of Michael Dell bringing in Mort Topfer.
Oh, yeah.
Dell was a young, dynamic founder. And Topfer provided that gray hair, that experience, that deep operational knowledge.
Your steady hand.
Exactly. To help navigate that period of really intense growth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's really interesting. It shows you the different hats that a COO might wear.
Definitely. Yeah. They could be like the ultimate operator. Laser focused on just day-to-day efficiency.
Keeping the machine running.
Absolutely. Or they might be the implementer. They take the CEO's vision and turn it into reality.
Right.
Make it happen.
Put it into practice.
Exactly. They could be a change agent, brought in to shake things up, transform the organization.
Totally.
And as we've said, they could be a mentor or even seen as a potential successor, being groomed for that CEO role eventually.
So really the COO role, it's very much context dependent. It's not just about what the company needs. It's about the CEO's strengths.
Yeah.
The dynamic between them.
Totally agree. It's that interplay.
It's a very particular fit.
It is. It is. And this raises a big question, doesn't it? Why would a company even decide to create a COO role in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's the trigger?
Exactly. And the sources point to a few key drivers. One of the big ones, I think, is just the increasing demands on CEOs these days.
It's a tough job.
It is. They're dealing with so much more now.
Right.
Global competition, public scrutiny on things like corporate social responsibility, financial accountability.
You got to be on top of everything.
You do. It's a lot. So it makes sense that they often need a strong second in command to handle the internal stuff.
So that the CEO can focus outward.
Exactly.
On the big picture strategy, long-term vision building relationships with investors.
Exactly. It's about dividing and conquering.
Makes sense.
Right. Another key reason is to bring in specific expertise or balance out the leadership team. The Michael Dell-Mort Topfer case is a perfect example.
Right.
Dell was young, needed that operational experience, and Topfer provided it.
It's like a yin and yang almost.
Yeah, good balance.
Yeah.
And it's not always about experience either. Sometimes it's about mentoring the CEO.
Oh, right, yeah.
Remember Mark Andreessen hiring James Barksdale at Netscape? Classic example of pairing a brilliant young founder with someone who could guide them as a leader.
Help them grow.
Exactly. And then there's succession planning.
Right.
Companies using this EOO role to groom future CEOs. IBM with Sam Palmisano, Norfolk Southern, choosing a young enough COO
Interesting.
Shows how they're thinking long-term about leadership.
Right. It's almost like a built-in pipeline in some cases.
Yeah, in a way. And it seems like organizations that have those succession plans in place benefit in a couple of ways.
Oh, how so?
Well, they can either help that ambitious COO grow within the company, or they understand when that COO might need to move on to reach their goals.
So it's about managing expectations on both sides.
Exactly.
Interesting.
We also see COOs being brought in to tackle specific problems or during a crisis.
Right, when things get tough.
Exactly, like Bob Herbold coming into Microsoft.
Yes.
They needed someone to bring in operational discipline, standardize processes, improve efficiency, build accountability.
Right, because Microsoft was growing so rapidly.
They were. It was chaotic. And sometimes the COO role is created just because there's this amazing individual.
Right, something they can't pass up.
Exactly. They have such valuable skills. The CEO thinks, we need this person on the team.
They make a role for them.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though, the sources also point out that the COO role isn't always permanent.
Right. It's not a given.
Sometimes it's got like a limited lifespan.
Yeah. What's fascinating is when it's designed as a development opportunity for the COO.
Oh, like a stepping stone?
Exactly. They learn, they grow, they achieve their objectives, and then the role might disappear.
It's fulfilled its purpose.
Right, like some roles at the Kauffman Foundation.
Okay.
And it can also happen when the role is tied to a specific person. Their skills, their way of doing things.
Oh, right.
When they leave, their responsibilities are just absorbed back into the organization.
The COO title vanishes.
Yep. Like Rick Belluzzo and Steve Heyer at Microsoft and Coca-Cola.
Interesting. So if you're thinking about implementing a COO role in your company or stepping into one yourself, there's a lot to consider. And at the very top of the list has got to be the relationship between the CEO and the COO.
That's the foundation. Couldn't agree more.
The research really emphasizes that ongoing alignment of vision is absolutely essential.
Oh, yeah. If they're not on the same page strategically, it can cause problems.
Friction.
Big time. And trust is huge.
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be a real connection.
Chemistry.
And, of course, communication.
Both formal and informal.
Exactly. That's what keeps things running smoothly.
It's the glue.
It is. Having those clear roles and responsibilities is crucial, too.
Oh, yeah. You need those boundaries.
You do. The classic Mr. Inside versus Mr. Outside model.
I like that.
The COO focused on internal operations. The CEO on the external stuff.
It's a good framework.
It is. And it's really important to prevent those backdoor situations.
Where people go around the COO.
Exactly. Direct reports trying to bypass the COO and go straight to the CEO.
Undermining their authority.
Exactly. The CEO has to be disciplined and support the COO. Make sure that doesn't happen.
It's about respect.
It is. And the COO needs to respect the CEO's vision, too.
Right.
If there's a fundamental disagreement strategically.
Like with Ed Zander and Scott McNeely at Sun Microsystems.
Right. It might be time for the COO to move on.
Find a better fit.
Exactly. Now, beyond the interpersonal stuff, there are certain competencies that a COO really needs to be successful.
So what makes a great COO?
Well, a real passion for operations, for execution. That's essential.
Someone who likes to get things done.
Absolutely. They need to be a doer. And having credibility in the industry helps a lot, too.
Oh, yeah. It gives them weight.
It does. People trust their judgment. And a proven track record of achieving results.
Results matter.
They do. Yeah. You have to be able to point to your accomplishments. Strong decision-making ability, too. Being able to make those tough calls, sometimes unpopular ones.
Absolutely.
And adaptability, being able to learn quickly, understand the company culture.
Navigate the politics.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of soft skills as well as the hard skills.
It is. And of course, that ability to build a strong relationship with the CEO we talked about.
That's key.
The CEO needs to feel comfortable with them, confident in them.
Trust is essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A broad understanding of different business functions helps too.
So not just a specialist in one area.
Right. They need to understand sales operations, marketing, the whole picture.
A generalist.
Yeah. And of course, financial skills, execution skills, those are crucial.
Got to be able to manage the money, make things happen.
Exactly. And all of this is underpinned by strong leadership and interpersonal skills.
So they can inspire and motivate people.
Exactly. Get the best out of their team. And finally, I think a really important quality is the ability to subordinate their ego.
Not be a glory hog.
Right. Understanding that it's about supporting the CEO, empowering others.
It's about the team.
It is.
Now, this leads us to the question of the COO as a potential CEO.
Right. Can the COO step into the top job?
Because the COO role can be a great proving ground for future CEOs.
It can be, but there's a tension there, isn't there?
Between being seen as an operator versus a strategic thinker.
Exactly.
So COOs need to have opportunities to show their strategic chops.
They do. And they need exposure to the board of directors.
To the external world.
Exactly. So they can demonstrate they're not just an internal person.
They're ready for the big leagues.
Right. And the research suggests there's almost like a natural lifespan for a COO who wants to be CEO.
How long?
Maybe 3 to 4 years. If they're not moving up or they feel stuck in an operational role.
They might start looking elsewhere.
Exactly. It's important for them to focus on doing their current job well.
Right. Not just thinking about the next one.
Exactly. Overly ambitious number one wannabes, as the research calls them.
I like that.
They can actually be less effective in the COO role.
Interesting. Now, what about COOs who come from outside the organization?
Right, those external hires.
They face unique challenges.
Definitely. Building credibility and trust quickly is a big one.
Because they don't have those existing relationships.
Exactly. And understanding the company culture can be tough, too.
It's like learning a new language.
It can be. And the CEO plays a big role here.
And helping them integrate.
Exactly.
Right.
If the CEO doesn't actively support the new COO, they can face resistance from the insiders.
It can get very political.
It can. And the board of directors has a vital role, too.
The board often gets overlooked.
They do. But they need to understand why the COO role was created.
The rationale.
Exactly. And they need to make sure everyone in senior management understands the COO's role, too.
To avoid confusion.
Right. And most importantly, they need to support the CEO in empowering the COO.
Giving them the authority they need.
Exactly. The board can also engage with the COO directly.
Have them attend board meetings.
Exactly. Or have separate discussions with them. It helps build alignment and understanding.
Makes sense. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
The business landscape is always changing. What are some of the contemporary challenges that CEOs are facing today?
Well, the global recession had a big impact.
Even though it's been a while.
It has. There's still a big focus on cost reduction and a realization that demand in some industries has changed permanently.
People's habits have changed.
They have. And then there's technology.
Right.
The speed of business is increasing all the time.
It's relentless.
It is. And then there's cybersecurity data breaches.
Keeping everything safe.
It's a huge challenge. And social media has changed everything, too.
It's everywhere.
It is. And globalization brings its own challenges.
Oh, yeah. The world is so interconnected.
It is. COOs have to manage global supply chains, geopolitical risks.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. And then there's the constant pressure to innovate.
Right.
COOs have to balance cost control with investing in new opportunities.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is. And then there's the challenge of being always on.
Right. Technology means you're always connected.
You are. It's hard to switch off. It can lead to burnout.
You need time to recharge.
You do.
Right.
And security is a big concern, too.
Both physical and cybersecurity.
Exactly. As executives like Gil West at Delta have highlighted.
It's a never-ending battle.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the COO role, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the main message is that the COO role is incredibly diverse.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. It all depends on the company, the CEO, the specific situation.
Context.
Right. But to be successful, you need a clear reason for having a COO, a well-defined structure, and the right person for the job.
With the right skills and experience?
Absolutely. But most importantly, there needs to be a strong, trusting relationship between the COO and the CEO.
That's the foundation.
It is. And the COO role is always evolving.
You have to adapt.
You do. The business world is constantly changing.
So what works today might not work tomorrow.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, you now have a much deeper understanding of this really important executive role.
We hope so.
Think about the many reasons why a company might bring in a COO, the skills they need to succeed, and the importance of that CEO-CO partnership.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
It is. And here's a final thought for you to consider. Given how complex and volatile the business world is these days, is the COO role becoming even more critical than ever before?
That's a great question.
And what does that mean for how we develop future leaders and build resilient organizations? Think about those examples we discussed, like the different approaches at Disney or the succession planning at IBM.
It's worth reflecting on.
It really shows just how nuanced and important this often underestimated role can be.
It does.
So that's it for our deep dive into the world of the COO.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.